Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Eddie with Joe's Gaming and Electronics. Today, I'll be showing you guys how to remove everything from a DJI Spark into another shell, which we have right here. So we're going to swap all the internals and components and sensors from this one, because it's cracked housing, into our good housing. So to get started, we'll have a few screws to take out. So we'll just flip this over, and we're going to want to get a hex. And 1, 2, 3, 4, pop those out, and then 5 and 6 are right by the camera in there. You could see right there. Alrighty. Also, these two middle screws will have a little bit of glue in them. So we can get a pry tool or just some skinny screwdriver and just pop that glue out. And just a little bit of glue, pop that out, and continue taking these out. Any parts or tools that I'll be using will have linked in the description below, or just go on our website, look up DJI Mavic parts or DJI Spark parts. We also do sell Mavic parts as well, if you're interested in that. And we'll have some videos on those coming up here shortly as of this video. If you're watching in a few years, well, we'll have all the videos for you guys. Now that we got those taken out, we just grab a pry tool. Nearly any pry tool works. We're going to want to pop this little casing off and just get up in there and pry up carefully. And this casing will just pop off, and we're in. That's basically it. Let's take that off. Now we're gonna want to take a few screws out, and we're going to be using our 2mm Phillips. So we're going to want to take the main board off the housing. So we're going to want to take this shield off right here, which is held on by 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. And this one also holds the board down to the housing. Then we're gonna get this one right here, and right there. And then our board will be able to pop out. A little trick I like to do is, as I take these out, I lay the screws out exactly how I take them out, just so you know exactly where everything went. Because not all these screws are the same, right? So then we're going to take these two out to take that shield off. They're all Phillips. All the ones internally that I'm taking out so far have been just the 2.0 Phillips screwdriver. And then pop the shield out. It'll come off with that little pad right there. Now we can take this pad off, take the shield off, and take the pad off that's underneath this shield. Take that pad out and that pad out. You could use whatever you have handy. I like to use a flathead. We have this on our website as well. It's a 1.5mm flathead. And you just get in between that padding and just pull up with the tape. Be gentle with these. And again, just lay them out where you take it out of, just for ease of reassembly. These two are for the camera and the gimbal, so you want to be extra careful on this, because these ribbons are a bit more fragile and not glued down as compared to some of the other ones who have stronger clips. So if you do pop out this clip right here, you're just going to want to hold it down while you peel this padding off, and then just carefully peel this back. You want to be super gentle with those ribbons. And then here you can grab a plastic pry tool and just pry up from the corners, just carefully, because you really do not want to damage these. And you can just work your way up being super gentle. Now we have a ribbon here, 2 ribbons here, a ribbon here, and these 2 connectors. It's the same thing. These are glued, same as that one. So you just carefully pry up. You're gonna use a little bit of force here, not too much. It'll break from the glue rather easily. And then you can kind of just work that pry tool in there. Careful not to touch the connector and kind of cut that glue. And carefully just disconnect that glue. There we go. One more here. And then you have these 2 clips here. You can just kind of put those to the sides. Oh, and we forgot one last screw for our board. And now we could just carefully take these 2 screws out that hold the frontward facing sensors. And we could just carefully lift that up, put that to the side. Try not to touch the sensors. If you do, you get a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and you could just clean the sensors with a cotton swab or a microfiber towelette. Now we just pull this last ribbon off. There we go. And now our board will just come right out. Carefully place that to the side. Now we're going to want to take our gimbal out, which might seem scary. It's a lot easier than it looks. You're going to want to take these 4 Phillips out. Now we can just carefully remove. I like to use the flathead for this part. This metal piece right here from the camera will be connected to a little rubber grommet here, and you just get in between there and then pry that away super carefully and gently, not to rip the rubber. There we go. And now gonna pull our ribbons to where we want them, and we can just work this kind of up, kind of break it free from where I was sitting. There we go. And then carefully, this camera, guide it while pulling from this side, from the top. While you're pulling out, you guide the camera through to where the kind of the cutout is, and you'll kind of see how it goes. You don't want to force anything, just go slowly, take your time so you don't damage anything. There we go. Now we took that camera assembly out. All that's left really is just going to be these sensors down there. So grab our Phillips, take these 2 screws off from the top of this cover, place this to the side. A couple taps, that piece will pop off, and we can carefully grab our downward facing sensors. Again, I try not to touch them, and you're just going to have one connector here. So we grab that pry tool we were using and just pry up. There we go, and we can move these to the side. Now we have one more. If you were to wanting to swap all these ribbons out as well, you're just gonna have 2 screws there, and all these ribbons have a little bit of double-sided tape on them that you're gonna want to carefully pry up. Then there's your battery pin connectors right there. Very simple. You're just going to peel that glue off, unsolder all the motors from it, take those screws out, and it will just pop out. Just kind of pry it. We can make a video on that later. But as for this video, we're just gonna leave all the motors and internals from this here, and we'll have other videos if you need to know how to do these motor swaps. If you want to swap the motor or the battery pins or the sensors or anything. But for this video, we're gonna have all that in there. Now, we're gonna want to grab our camera assembly and feed it in the same way we took it out. So carefully guide it through. There we go. It'll go ahead and sit in there. And then we could grab our plastic pry tool and kind of work this ribbon up to where we need it to be. And then kind of work this assembly under the wires. There we go. Make sure this comes out nicely. Now we're going to want to kind of pull back on this. Sorry about that. Pull this back and then guide this metal rod back into that rubber piece, which is kind of hard to show you guys in there, but you guide it back. You're going to want to grab this rubber piece and just work it back on it, and it'll latch. Once you're in here, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. Pretty simple. If you have any questions, just leave it down in the comment section below. Not for just this part, but for really any part of this repair. And if you want us to make any more videos on specifics, just let us know. And we'll be glad to do that for you guys. This can be a bit tedious. You just work it on. We can peel this connector out. There'll be a little bit of double-sided tape. Just carefully pop that up out of our way so we don't damage it. Bam, we got it on both sides. Just score. That's like the most tricky part about this whole repair, if we call it that, or reassembly. Now we can go ahead and grab those 4 Phillips head screws we took out earlier and just place them back into the same locations. Now all 4 of these screws are the same, but again, if you use my tip, you'll never really need to know where anything goes. Well, you will, but you will know because you'll have it all laid out. So that's kind of a cool little trick that's really helped me out when starting new repairs. Nice little trick. And then over time, you just kind of learn it as you go on. But still, you get in the habit of it, you're always doing it, and all your repairs go smoothly. And that way, you don't have any weight reduction to any of your repairs when you forget to put screws in. That's all those 4. You don't need to over tighten those, be very gentle. We can place this back into its spot. Now we kind of direct these 2 ribbons this way. Grab our frontward facing sensors. Peel that back, slide those in. Well, actually, we want to put the board in first. Pardon me. We're going to want to grab our board and carefully slide it in. Oh, drop it into place more or less. Find the ribbons, work around them. There we go. You'll kind of feel it when it's seated. You'll kind of feel it more or less. Now we can place our frontward facing sensors. Just kind of show you guys a little bit more. We could push that forward, drop those in. They slide in super easily. Now we could screw those in with those 2 screws we took out. These were a little bit longer than the prior. And anything you're tightening on this drone, you really don't need to over tighten. It's all going into plastic, so just You can kind of feel it out when it starts stopping. Very light pressure, but not too light. You just know to stop so you don't strip out this plastic. Sweet. Now that we have that, we can go ahead and plug all our ribbons in. You could use your pry tool or a Phillips if you're very careful, but I don't recommend using a Phillips. Just carefully snap those in. And when doing these clips, you never want to force anything. That's when you start breaking these connectors. And actually, a little tip for you guys is clean that old glue off. If you want, you could use some heat very carefully, or if you just grab a flathead, carefully work this up. Clean that glue up a little bit. Switch over to the pry tool and it'll just pop right in. There we go. You just work our way around with all these clips. It's not required to clean the glue, it's just if you're having a difficult time, it can make it easier. Very carefully with these camera. A pair of tweezers can really help you here, but we'll just get her going with what we have currently. But just for your knowledge, I guess. Oh, wow, I am very sorry. So we just work around, pop all these clips in. Alrighty, now that we have all those ribbons back in, we can go ahead and place all of these little pads back into place. And if you get to this one and you're like, shoot, where's my pad? It's on that little metal piece there. So we just place that into its place. And now we can place this back into its area. And we just put all these screws back in. These two short black ones will go in the rear shield. Don't tighten it all the way just yet. Place that other one in so you could align that shield. Tighten that one down and finish up with that back one. And it'll kind of line itself into place. Now here, that one goes there. We have the one that holds the main board down as well. Make sure that's a little bit loose, so we can still work that shield around. There we go, put that into its place. And then the two silver ones are not magnetic with the big heads, so you're gonna wanna hold it down or either place it in by hand like so, or with tweezers. Hold it down with your finger and just make sure you screw that in. Not all the way just yet. That's another way of doing that. Oh, just flip it over. There we go. And we can tighten this up the rest of the way. Again, you don't have to over tighten these. And just right. And I'm not going to tighten that one just quite yet. I want to put in the rest of the board screws. Not tightening them down just all the way quite yet. Place all four in, and then we can tighten it down. I just like to work in a crisscross pattern. There we go. There we go. Now, my bad. Recenter that for you guys. Now we're gonna have this cover, which you have these two little notches in the front. You can see that. Kind of slide those into place. Two hands helps here. And lock it down just by on the clips with your fingers and clip all the way around. Make sure this is in and just keep working your way around, closing those clips up. Sorry about that. Make sure they line, close them up. And again, you don't really want to force it. You could just kind of bend them to the side. And you make sure you have no gaps all around. And we flip it over. And then we grab that hex and put the last 6 screws in.